Alrighty then. We have been busy little bee this morning. It is Thursday. I think it's the 11th. I think it's 11th. It's the 11th. We've been looking at all the Krusty the Clown wires in here and determining how we wanted to attack this situation. I've pulled the first and second IF cans off the chassis. I've pulled the push button mechanism and the tuner mechanism off the chassis. I've made diagrams for my memories, so I could put the IF cans back in after I change out the wires on them. And I've been looking at this switching assembly here, sub-assembly, seeing what gives on it in order to deal with it. And what I found out is there is nothing that comes off of this side to any of the other components on the chassis on this side of it. We do have a patter here, or a trimmer, that is nut and bolted onto the chassis frame that connects into the components that are mounted on this sub-assembly. So that will be easy enough to deal with without having to disconnect anything to that part. All the coils seem to be only connected to the switching assembly here. That's 8-9 coils. The only difficult thing to deal with would be this trimmer right here. They riveted it. They put a darn rivet into the chassis here instead of like this one, where I'm not sure why they did that. It might have been for grounding purposes or whatever, but one is as good as the other. I mean, that would have made it easier here to, rather than to either clip something or whatever. But I decided to go ahead and drill out the rivet, and then we'll tap the chassis and we'll put a machine screw back in with a star washer, and that should deal with that. And let's see, there is a little cat's acider there that comes off and goes to something. This here, I'm not really sure what that doggone chinkawonky is. It only comes up here and then goes to there. There is a screw that looks like an adjustment for some core on it. I haven't really scoped it out on the schematic yet, but whenever I get ready to diagram this sub-assembly to the rest of the off components, I'll see if I can't find that. So basically all I'll have to deal with is the connection for this 350 peak mica, this paper cap, this no, that is mounted up on the, I just need to disconnect these wires here don't really have to, because they'll come right through the hole in the chassis. And then down in there, there's a couple of leads that come off and goes to this A7 tube. And 4 screws, 2 up the front here and 2 in the rear here, and this assembly should come out in one piece. Well, with the exception of having to deal with that there I can just snip and deal with it. So now what we have on the front, or on the top, let's see if I can do this one-handedly. There it is. We stripped it all down except for this. I think what we'll do with this is, and here's that little gizzy thing that's riveted in. I'll have to find out what that is. I think what I'll do is just pull the bolts and pop the cap on this clamshell and mask everything else off here, and then we'll refinish the cap and the heads on the bolts, or the screws, the whatever. And then this here was the eye tube, and the eye tube is a midget. Yeah, it's a little midget tube right there. It works. It's not very bright, but it does work to a point. It doesn't seem to respond to anything, and I think that has to do with some of the components in there and the weakness of the tube. But other than that, it does work. Here is the push buttons. You can see somebody really took care of it, and in a not so nice way. Here is the geared mechanism for the tuner. This is shared with this subassembly, and these half semicircular rings here. The screws are loosened up wherever they are, and I'm not see. Oh, these are the kind that, like the old cars used to have: pull out, adjust where you want your thingy, and push in. And what it does is it locks this half ring into whatever position this bar is at, and it just pushes against these 2 rails right here. So that's how those push buttons work. It also spins the tuning shaft. Believe that. I mean, it spins the shaft, and it spins the tuner assembly at the same time. So there's a lot of friction there that it has to, and there's the here is the I don't know, the connection to this shaft here on the end. That adds a little play right in there. It's like a U-joint. Operates much like a U-joint on a car. So anyway, We've got this dial loosened up except for that little push pin there, and sliding it off of this rivet up here, and we can get that pressed back into flat form. We got the tone chingy done, pulled off of it. There's the 2 IF cans. This is the top plate for that thing. This thing mounts up and that thing mounts on the front. So what we're going to do is clean up the chassis so we don't get a nose full of these goodies, and then we're going to start operating on it. The tubes for the big kahuna are, I don't know if they're going to show up today. They are scheduled. eBay says they should be delivered tomorrow, but you know, like the left, they keep moving the goalposts on the delivery date, and then they ask you when you leave feedback, did it arrive on time? Well, that depends. No and yes. So anyway, we're going to get busy, and I just received a radio from a friend in Texas, and he sent me another bomber, and I got it yesterday afternoon. Got it unboxed this morning, and that's going to be waiting in the wings until I get to a break point. I've got the cabinet triple coated for clearing on the big kahuna, the Tropic, and we're going to let it cure up for the biggest part of the day, since the tubes ain't going to be here anyway. So and then we're going to give it a sanding, and we're going to give it some more coats. So it's coming along. The chassis is sitting back here, all covered and ready to go back in it. Whenever we get the tubes in and on the chassis and get it aligned. So stay tuned. There's going to be a whole lot more fun coming your way.